Welcome to the Catholic Life Coach Podcast. My name is Carla Fitz. I am a certified life coach, wife, and mom of two beautiful little girls. My hope for this podcast is to offer support and empower other Catholic women to live their most authentic life, to share life coaching tools from a Catholic perspective in order to help you live a more fulfilling life filled with peace, joy, and abundance. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Catholic Life Coach Podcast. I am blessed to be here with you guys. This episode, we are going to dive into God's provision and providence when it comes to our goals, to our dreams, to our desires. So this is something that I love learning more and more about. And right now I am reading the autobiography, or it's not an autobiography, it's the biography of Mother Angelica. And for those of you who do not know, Mother Angelica was the founder and creator of EWTN. And the woman was beyond belief. She was sassy, she was outspoken, she was faithful, she was madly in love with God, madly faithful to God. And listening to her story really truly resonates with me because I've always been a person that just believes that things are possible that seem impossible. And for Mother Angelica, this was such a gift in her life where she believed ahead of time that things would work out, right? Things would pan out, things would be provided. And I think it's caused me to really think about God's provision in my life and in the life of each one of us as faithful daughters of Christ. And I wanted to make a podcast on this because I had read a conversation in one of the Facebook groups where we feel afraid of asking God to provide money. And I wanted to talk about this because I do think that this is a sensitive topic when it comes to our faith. It's talking about money. Here is my thought on money. The truth is, I believe money needs to be in the hands of good people. I think when I was growing up, I always thought, well, money's not good because there are so many people out there who have a lot of money and do a lot of wrong, bad things. But I also have grown to learn that there's a lot of people out there that have money who do a lot of amazing things. And I also think this comes down to desire. I don't think each one of us has a desire to make a business, to create something new, to be entrepreneurs. But if you have the desire inside of you, I believe that you have that desire inside of you for a reason. God is the one placing those desires in your heart. So if those desires are being placed in your heart by God, then it is our duty to honor that. It is our duty to go after them. It is our duty to stretch ourselves to go after that desire. But when it comes to our desires, to our goals, to what we want to manifest in the world, it is important for us to be clear on what God's role in our life is. Because I think the mistake happens when we are trying to want money for the sake of power, when we are trying to want money, when we want money in order to be in control, when we want money to hurt other people. This is where things get crossed, because I don't think money is wrong in and of itself, but I think it is our initial and our truest intentions that make money corrupt. And so for those of you who feel called to make more money, to create a business, I want you to check in on what your intentions are. But when you get clear on that, I do also want to encourage you guys to practice believing that you're allowed. You're allowed to make that money. But what I want you to also keep in mind is that that money is being provided not by you, but by God. It is not being provided by your own will and power. It is provided by His grace. And I think the mistake that we make is thinking that we are in charge of the money. We need to do all of the things. We need to be in control. So it is me providing for me. It is me providing for our family. It is not the case. I'm here to break the news that the one providing each and every single time is Jesus. Each and every time is God who is providing for us in our business. He's the one providing clients. He's the one providing money for our family. And I think this is a great news for us. And I'll tell you why. I think trusting and believing that God is the one providing for us helps us to trust, helps us to understand and to flip money on its head and see it for what it is. Because if God is the one providing the money, He's also the one providing the desires in our heart for what we are going to do with that. And if we are truly seeking faith-driven success, we will do a lot of good in the world with this. So let's step into God's provision. So I actually want to separate them a little. I think in my head for a long time, I thought that provision and providence was kind of the same thing, but it is not. Okay, so provision is the side that helps us to trust that God is constantly providing for us. If you think back 5 years ago in your life, I want to encourage you to ask yourself the question, am I living the dream life that I had 5 years ago? I can almost guarantee you that the life that you are living today, if you stepped into what God was calling you to do, will be mind-blowing to the you 5 years ago. I did this exercise a few months ago with my coach, and I realized that the things that I thought were impossible 5 years ago, also known as owning my own business and working from home and homeschooling my children, I thought those things were completely crazy and impossible to achieve 5 years ago. And the fact that I'm living in this reality right now is mind-blowing. And I think it's so important for us to realize that God has been providing for us each and every step of the way. If you really look back, you've always had enough. He has always provided enough for you to be taken care of. And so we need to step it up and trust that He will always provide no matter what. And it helps our brains feel safer, especially when we go into business, especially when we don't see the business growing the way we want to see it growing. We can always trust that God is always providing. Now, the other side is accepting and embracing and trusting God's providence for us. And when I talk about providence, I mean God's will for us is being done in each step of the way. And I think the way that we can really feel connected is really praying for God to align our desires to His will. Give me the desires that you want me to have so that I can pursue the things that you want me to pursue. Help me to always be open to your will. And I also think the other thing is aligning our business with Him, making Him a priority, making Him the center of everything so that we always feel like we are following Him, so that we always know that we are following Him. I always find it funny how we are so scared to talk to God about money. How we are so scared to say, God, I need this. Or God, I would love for you to provide this for us. Or God, I'm working towards this. Can you bless this? I just find that so funny because I don't know if you know this, but God already knows what's in your heart. So us trying to guard our hearts, trying to show up, quote unquote, better for Him, it's so counterproductive and so not useful, because if you think about it, He already knows you. He already knows what your desires are. So what is the point of hiding it from Him? In fact, I think if you go into church, if you spend some time with the Eucharist and you say, Jesus, look, I have this insane desire. This is something that I did a few years ago where I just had this insane desire to go back to Italy, and it was consuming me, and I had no space for anything else but thinking about that trip. And I remember praying specifically that if this was not a good desire, for God to take it away from me, but that if it was a good desire and He wanted me to pursue it, to help me figure out a way that would work out. I'm here to tell you that it did work out. I did go back to Italy, and it was a blessing, but it didn't happen in the time frame that I thought would happen. And I think that sometimes we are afraid of asking God because we don't want to be disappointed. We are trying to somehow say, okay, God, I'm not going to put it out there just in case you don't actually just in case you don't actually make it on time. I don't want to be disappointed. God knows the better plan. And when we step into trusting not just God's provision, but God's providence, God's truest desires for us, God's timing is perfect. Nothing ever goes wrong. It is always perfectly on time. I think we make the mistake of thinking that if it didn't happen now, it's never going to happen. That's not the case. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes it takes shorter. Sometimes it's really quick. Sometimes it's not so quick. But I can guarantee you that God will always, always, always show up for you. When He gives you a promise, He will always fulfill that promise. It might not happen in the way that you're expecting it. It might not happen in the way that you want it. It might not happen in the time frame that you want it or would like it to be. But I can guarantee you that it will happen. I think back a few years ago, we were in a 2-bedroom house. We had one little girl and we were pregnant with the second, and the house was getting really tight. And I remember thinking, this is not going to work for when I give birth to my child, because the bathroom was in the main floor and I had to go up and down the stairs, and I was not at a very healthy state of my life during that time. And I remember thinking, I've got to get out of this house because this is just not going to work. And I was trying to force it so much, and I fell in love with this beautiful house. It wasn't quite right because in my head I had this idea that it had to have a fenced backyard for my girls to be able to play in the backyard, and I wanted it to be in a neighborhood that had children around so that they had neighbors to play with. And I remember praying about it, and at the time it was just not going to work. And I was disappointed because He was not giving me what I wanted when I wanted it. But the actual house, came 1 year later. Less than 1 year later. We were moving into our current home, and it was perfect. It was the perfect neighborhood with a bunch of kids, plenty of room for our girls to grow into, the beautiful fireplace in the center of the house to put my gorgeous, ginormous, beautiful cross that I love. It had the backyard that was fenced in, had so many trees, and it was cheaper than the house that we had looked at a year before. Did it make any sense? No. It actually made no sense that we would be able to afford this kind of house. But God provided. And He provided right then and there. Right on the day that we had to close the house, the money came exactly the way we needed it. And I fully believe that when you trust that God is providing and that God's providence is perfect, because it is, things work out exactly the way they're meant to work out. And I want to free all of you from thinking that you did something wrong. I want to free you from thinking that the desire that you have in your heart isn't good. I want to free you from the thought that you're late, that it's too late. It is not too late. God has been working in your heart all this time. It is never too late. But I also want to share with you some very wise words that Mother Angelica shared with me this past week. And it is that God's providence goes as far as you go. That's the scary part. Because if you don't go, He won't go. So here's what I have to tell you. Go after those dreams that you have in your hearts. Go after those desires that you have in your heart. Do they sound scary? Fantastic. Do they make you shake a little? Amazing. Because those will be the goals that will help you grow the most. And those will be the goals that will lead you to have to lean on God more than you ever have before. But if we decide to not move, to stay safe, to not take the risk, to not go after those goals, God will not go for us. We need to move. We need to meet him halfway so that he can show his provision, so that he can show his providence. You guys, one time I heard Christy Wright say, God doesn't just show up for us. He shows off for us. He is an abundantly giving Father. He wants you to create something amazing. He wants you to share his light with the world. And when we have this calling inside of us, it is important for us to follow him. It is important for us to trust in his providence and in his provision. He's always there for you. I will see you guys next week. Until next time, God bless. Thank you for joining the Catholic Life Coach podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with a friend and leave a review to help this channel grow and reach more and more amazing Catholic women. Also, if you are interested in having a free coaching call with me, make sure to sign up for a time that works for you. The link is in the description. I cannot wait to see you there. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. And until next one, God bless.